to make things as effective, as perfect, as useful as possible, to make the best of something, to be just plain optimistic. Or as Peter Drucker once said, it's the belief that adequacy is the enemy of excellence. Adequacy is the enemy of excellence. I love that because what that says to me is that 10% response rate is 90% non-response rate. So what do we got to do about the other 90%? I'm sure that everybody that's in this room, you work at whatever organization you work at because you really believe strongly in what you're doing, right? And if you believe in that, then you think that everybody should believe like you, right? So the problem is that we just can't convey that information to the other person so they get that same aha moment that we have. So I want to talk about this theory that I've developed, but I call it a law because laws are something that people pay more attention to. I call it the law of channel orthodoxy. And what this suggests is that the time and expense related with delivering some type of fundraising appeal, some sort of message, is proportional to the potential response rate. So what's the most expensive form of fundraising? I could fly around the country. I could meet with every single one of my donors face to face. I can look them in the eye. I can give them the case for support, right? And I know that I'll get probably a pretty strong response rate on that. Generally, some of the face-to-face research I've seen now, between 40 and 60% conversion rate on that ask, right? And you hop down to something like telephone or mail, not quite as expensive as flying around the country, meeting with every single one of your donors, but you're not going to get a 40% conversion rate on that. You have maybe 15, you're high-fiving, right? You hop down to something like web. Is it as hard, is it as expensive to throw a web page up as it is to send a mail piece or to call every single one of your donors? Well, no. But are you going to get the kind of response rate that you're going to get with some of these other channels? Well, most likely no. And then email. What's the Convio benchmark? It's like 0.15% response rate for house email appeals. I think there's some room for optimization in there, right? So this law of channel orthodoxy, or as I like to call it, LOCO, there's two ways you can beat this. The first way is by innovation, right? Lowering the cost of fundraising at each of these different things without reducing the effectiveness of it. Or, which is our topic today, optimization. Increasing the response rate without increasing the investment significantly. So where do we want to be? We want to be left of the line. We want to be left of LOCO, right? Anything up to the left of that blue line is where we want to be. So we'll spend our time today focusing on optimization. And before we get into the topic of email campaigns, I want to show you, these are 3 emails that were designed by 3 competent agencies, 3 really top-notch agencies. And they were all designed, they were given a task to try and beat the control. So I will ask you, I'll ask the group, which one of these emails do you think is the most optimized? You can hold up a finger, 1, 2, or 3. I got some 2s in the back, 1, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2, 2. So we're all over the place, right? We can't agree. What are some of the things that you would look at to determine whether or not this is, in fact, optimized?
A single clear,
I'm sorry?
a single clear action item.
A single, clear call to action. Good. What else?
I'm looking at the squirrel.
The squirrel. See, the squirrel. What is it with the squirrel? It like captivates you, draws you in. It says, "Buy my pillows," right?
It's different. It's not pillows.
Okay. What else? So we got a squirrel, and we have a strong single call to action.
That the links bring you through to.
Okay.
To make that.
The links bring you to a landing page that actually conveys that argument. Good. Well, all of 3 of these underperformed when it came to comparing it to the control. So number 2 is the best of the worst. It grew response rate by negative 19%, correct, for agency number 2. Number 3 grew response rate by negative 34%. And the first one grew response rate by negative 52%. Now, I didn't show you the control, but that's okay. The point is, how do you determine when something's optimized? How do you even go about the process of trying to optimize? What do you look at? What do you test? So this is the first precept we have to think about. Best practices are not enough, right? We have to test, and we have to test within a rigorous methodology. Because if not, then we're just blindfolded, we're just throwing darts against the wall, hoping something sticks, hoping something's right. So I want to introduce you to this methodology today. I know, don't get concerned, there's no trigonometry or anything involved here, but what this formula suggests is that email marketing effectiveness equals relevance times offer plus incentive minus friction minus anxiety. Email marketing effectiveness equals relevance times offer plus incentive minus friction minus anxiety. And if we break this apart, we see that there's two different components. There's value factors, relevance, offer, incentive, and then there's inhibitors, friction, anxiety. So the idea is we want to pump up the value factors as much as we possibly can. We want to reduce these negative inhibitors as much as we possibly can, friction and anxiety. So I have to pause for a minute and just thank the guys who invented this. There's a company actually in Jacksonville, Florida, under the leadership of Dr. Flint McLaughlin, and they work with for-profit organizations. They have very few nonprofits they work with, but their purpose is to optimize the sales funnel, right? So I got exposed. I went to one of their conferences. I said, that sounds kind of cool, optimize the sales funnel. I wonder if we could optimize the donor funnel. So I've taken their methodology and started applying it. I'm going to show you some examples of the power of this thing. But I would encourage you, just go check out their site. They have tons of great resources and case studies and benchmark reports that you can go download. But they've tested over 1 billion emails, 10,000 different conversion paths, 1,300 different unique experiments. And out of those experiments, they have developed this methodology. They said, these are the things that really matter when it comes to communicating and optimizing your communication. So I'm going to give you an example of how this works. I'm going to walk through a few examples, and then we'll come back to these later, and I'll show you exactly what it is that made a difference here. So version A is the control, version B is the treatment. This is an email, acquisition email, went to a bunch of rented lists, and there was only one change made. The very last sentence of the email. And that one change resulted in a 139% increase in click-through rate, which translated to a 42% increase in revenue. I bet you want to know what that sentence is, right? I'll give it to you later. All right, so here's another one. This is a radio network. Version A is the control, long form, kind of out of the direct mail kind of mindset of more is more. And then version B is the treatment, shorter email, a little bit more compact. When we A/B split tested these, 257% increase in click-through rate. Here's another example. In this case, both the content is exactly the same. This is more of a creative test. Version B is the control and the typical HTML wrapper. Version A is more of an Outlook version of the email. And although there was not an increase in click-through between these different ones, the people that clicked through the treatment gave at a much higher percentage and signed petitions at a much higher percentage. I'll give you one more. This is an end-of-year email, the first of the series of 13. Version A is the control, version B is the treatment. And they don't look all that different, we're just kind of looking at them. But version B, the treatment, increased click-through by 369% and revenue by 121%. So we'll come back to these later, and I'll unpack them all and give you all the cool little secrets of what we did, what we changed, what we tested. But the point is that this methodology has enabled us to focus our thinking on what really works in the email process. So precept number 2, optimization doesn't happen on the page. Optimization happens in the mind. Optimization happens in the mind. So what Flint and his team suggest is that you don't optimize web pages. What you do is you optimize thought sequences, right? So if you think about it, anytime we have a communication, I'm going to convey some information to you, and no matter what channel it is, we're entering into a mental conversation, right? And so the goal is I want to create an unbroken chain of expectations through each of the steps of the process. So this other formula here is really the email messaging sequence. It starts at the time you capture the person's email address. What promises did you make when you captured their email address, when you offered them to sign up for something? And then it carries through to the first message you send, the to line, the from line, the subject line, the message envelope. And then it carries through to the email body itself, which inspires the click, which ultimately moves people to the landing page, which inspires the gift or the response or whatever it is. So what we need to do is we need to take this formula, email marketing effectiveness equals relevance times offer plus incentive minus friction minus anxiety, and apply it to each phase of the email messaging sequence. So that's what we'll do. We'll start with email capture. So first thing we have to determine is, well, what are we optimizing, right? How do we measure success here? the main thing we want to be concerned about is the email registration rate. So what percentage of the people that come to your website or to your landing page actually sign up and give you your name and information, right? We can't continue a conversation through email unless we have their email contact information, right? The nonprofit average is about 2%. So again, tons of room for optimization and improvement there. But let's look at a couple different nonprofit organizations. If one of these is yours, I apologize. I'm just picking some examples here. So Salvation Army website, I went in that, I think it took me about 15, 20 minutes before I gave up. I couldn't find a place to give them my email address. So step one, have a email capture form on your website somewhere. That's the first key to optimizing the email registration process. Here's another one, World Vision. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, newsletter, I can sign up for a newsletter. Okay, so I get that. And then here's another example here. This one's a little bit harder to figure out, but right here in the middle, you can sign up, become an insider. So that's where you can capture email. So let's look at these each of these different examples, and let's focus on relevance of our offer, how we communicate relevance. And there's a tool that we can use to assess this. So there's two things we have to look at. We want to measure the desirability of our offer and the exclusivity of our offer. Okay. So the idea is we want to rank the ideal customers level, desire level associated with the email capture. We want to measure the exclusivity of the offer. Is this something you can get somewhere else, anywhere else, or nowhere else? Is this something that represents significant interest to the ideal target audience, possible interest, or no interest? So let's go ahead and score each of these things. So we're going to look at these two, World Vision and cross-examine. So down here at the bottom, newsletter sign up. I want you guys by show of hands. This is this is 0. This is 1, this is 2. Let's rank the desire level associated with that. So if I go back, oops. So this is what they show me. Newsletter sign up, email address. So what would you think is the ideal target audience desire level associated with that offer? So 0, 1, or 2. Just based on what you see here. So what are they communicating? What's the offer? What's the desirability level of the offer? So we got lots of zeros. I would probably agree with you. So let's also think about the exclusivity. Now, is this something, this newsletter sign up, is that something I can get somewhere else, anywhere else, or nowhere else? So this would be nowhere else, this would be somewhere else, and this would be anywhere else. Actually, switch that. Yeah. 0, 1, or 2. 1, 1, 2, 1s. Okay, so it looks like mostly 1s. So if we go back to this here, what we want to do is we want to multiply the two numbers together. And if it's less than 2, we probably want to recraft the offer, right? So by just having a newsletter sign up opportunity, I mean, how many people really need more newsletters in their inbox? Not me, right? We need to convey value. So let's look at this other one. So become an insider. So I'll read it to you. It says, get instant free access to past episodes and extended teaching when you sign up to become a cross-examined insider. Okay, that sounds kind of interesting. I'll click. And then it says, become a cross-examined insider. When you become an insider, you're going to get special behind-the-scenes footage. You're going to get extended teaching. You're going to get an insider sneak peek of the compelling special. You get a virtual backstage pass, a complete unlimited access to, subscription to our content pack newsletter, and much, much more. Sign up. So let's think about the ideal target audience for this. The desirability of this offer, is this a 1, a 2, or a 0? 2 is high and 1 is 0, or 0s. So we got some 2s, 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 2s. Okay, so 2s, mostly 2s. And then the exclusivity. Is this something I can get anywhere else, somewhere else, or nowhere else? 2 is nowhere else. Okay, 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. So we have a good offer here, right? So what we have to keep in mind is that anytime we ask somebody for something that represents significant value to them, their contact information, right? We got a little fulcrum thing going on here, right? And it's not, I can't just offer something that represents equal value. I have to offer something that represents significantly more value in order to tip the scales, right? So this value exchange can be tipped by conveying a stronger offer, and also sometimes it helps by throwing in an incentive to tip the scale in your favor. So let me give you an example. This is an example from the Heritage Foundation. Now, can I just pause for a second? Do you know how hard it is to get a conservative think tank to be snarky online? So just the fact that we were able to get them to do this was pretty exciting. So the idea is, what if we can actually provide something that represents value? And entertainment has significant value in today's culture, right? So we created this little edutainment game. So Uncle Sam is sick, and he needs your help. So you begin the operation, and it goes through this whole little educational experience. We're entering into a mental conversation with people about this topic. And then you get to the end, and it says you got 3 out of 6 correct, and it says, but you know what? Obamacare is it's no game, it's no joke. It's a very serious thing, and that's why we wrote a very serious paper, and we want to send it to you very seriously right now, right? So we've led people through this mental communication, and then we offer them something that represents significant value at the end of that. So how do we do? Well, we had 43% of the people went all the way through that experience, so they completed the quiz. We had 19% of the people actually sign up for the email. So remember I told you that the nonprofit benchmark is 2% email capture, so 850% increase over the industry benchmark, just by positioning our offer in a place where people are actually more predisposed to want to take it after we get through that communication. Does that make sense? Everyone with me still? Yes? I know it's early. It's okay. And the coffee is not in here, so. Here's another example. This is an adoption agency in Dallas. So they're driving traffic through search engine, and they're offering people the opportunity to sign up, to register, to gain access to a resource center. So resources, if you're wanting to adopt, this is a place where you can get resources. Okay. So let's look at our formula again. Email marketing effectiveness equals relevance times offer plus incentive minus friction minus anxiety. We're going to focus on relevance of our offer and removing some of the anxiety of the process. Version A is the control, version B is the treatment. The control, they don't look radically different, right? In fact, version B, the treatment, is a lot simpler, right? We've removed some of the pictures up at the top, a more captivating headline. Instead of register, we say get instant access, and you're going to get this, 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 right? We're trying to convey a stronger value to the person signing up. I don't know about you, registering isn't really inspiring, but getting instant access now probably is. So these changes, A/B split test, 42% increase in registration rate by making those changes. Simple things, little things can make a big difference and make a big impact. All right, so let's move on to the actual email itself. So we've talked about how we optimize email capture. Let's go to the email body itself. So email marketing effectiveness equals relevance times offer plus incentive minus friction minus anxiety. Let's apply this to the message envelope, which is the to-line, the from line, the subject line. How do we measure success here? Again, it's the open rate. The industry benchmark is about 18% according to Convio. Okay, so 18% is our benchmark. So what do we need to do? Well, we have to focus on optimizing each of these different elements. Testing, different senders, right? Is it going to come from the organization? Is it going to come from a human being? Well, what our research suggests is that people actually, do business with. People give to people, right? So we want to actually have this be from a person. The subject line, there's one of the keys is that clarity trumps persuasion, right? We don't have to come up with the most persuasive subject line. We need to convey something that actually communicates value. That's clarity, right? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on open because there's a bunch of different things that you can test, just A/B split tests, different subject lines, different senders. But what I want to do is spend a lot of time talking about click-through rate. When you actually get somebody to open your message, what do you need to do to inspire them to click? Right? What do you need to do to inspire them to take that next step? So click-through rate, again, can be a 1.76. So how do we beat that? Well, we have to focus on the email message. And the first thing we have to get clarity around is what is our goal? Any email. What is the goal? What's the goal of any email? If it's a fundraising email, if it's an announcement email, what is the goal of an email? Again, not a rhetorical question. A response? Maybe. Okay. What else? People to read your email. That's very important. They have to read, obviously, to convey that information. What else? To get a donation. Okay.
Take action.
To take an action. let's get real narrow here. So the goal of any email, regardless of if it's a fundraising email or it's just an announcement, is to get a click, right? If you think about it, the only thing that somebody can do inside this email, the only action they can take is to click, right? So instead of trying to sell the donation in the email, all we need to do is to sell the click, because the magic happens once they get to the landing page. So that one little piece there is such a powerful thing. You know, using things like relevance in your communication. Obviously, we talk a lot about relevance, and usually that's in the reference to segmentation. So there's two kinds of relevance we can talk about. There's internal relevance. This is the things that we apply through segmentation. So what do we know about the people on our file? Their personal interests, their demographics, their personality, their communication styles, their giving level, their level of engagement. And then external relevance are things that happen outside of that. So seasonality, special events, news, limited time offers, holidays, dare I say weather, right? Let's say, come on now. How does the weather have anything to do with adding relevance in the email? Well, I'm going to share with you a personal experience here. So February 1st, 2011 was one of the coldest days in Dallas, like ever. I mean, the whole town was shut down. It was just a big ice storm. It was really disappointing for me because the Super Bowl's in town, and I'm from Pittsburgh, and the Steelers were there, and nobody could get out. So on this day, I got 2 emails. I'm sitting working from my home office, like freezing, watching the kids build like snow angels and stuff. And I got this email. This first one came in, and I'll read it to you a little bit. It says, "Hey Tim, brr, did you make it into work today? I did after an icy 2-hour commute. If you didn't, I bet the work is just piling up. And that's where Creative Circle comes in. We have the talent that can help you catch up. Worried about the weather again tomorrow? No problem. We got guys that can work remote, so you don't have to worry about it." So it was like, wow, that's pretty cool. They took something that's as arbitrary as weather and used it to create a relevant conversation with me to begin to talk about their service, about their unique value proposition. And that caught my eye. I was like, wow, that's pretty slick. And then later that day, I received this email. The first thing I see is "cool off," and I'm like, say what? And it says "summer's right around the corner." And I was like, really? And it's like, "beat the heat and say," I'm like, you gotta be nuts, man, to send out something like this. I mean, it was not just the coldest day in Dallas. It was like probably the coldest day in the country. I mean, every area was like freezing. So I go and explore this a little bit more, and it's got these quick links on the side. It says "register now." I'm like, for what? You know what I mean? Like, by the way, that's a good reminder. How did you get my email address in the first place? That's a good reminder for me to opt out, hit the spam button about 5 times. News? No, I get that on TV. And more about us. Well, I guess it certainly is all about you, right? Because sales must be dipping because it's freaking freezing outside. You know what I mean? So you think that I'm just going to buy a Mr. fan, you know what I mean, on a whim. So the idea is you got to think about, like, these people that we're having conversations with. These are your donors, right? These are your constituents. And they're smart. They're not stupid. They're not going to just donate just because we say so. We have to convey a strong value proposition. So let's go back and look at those emails that we talked about in the beginning here. So I'm going to go through each of these in detail and kind of unpack them a little bit. So in this email here, I told you we changed one thing. The very last sentence, which happened to be the call to action. Now, best practices say that only 18% of people are going to read to the bottom of the email, so like, why even bother, right? But it's those 18% of people that are the ones that you really want to communicate with. Those are the people that really matter, right? So in version A, the control, it says, "Please accept this invitation to stand with President Mrs. Bush by making a tax-deductible contribution today." It's fine. I mean, it sounds like a common call to action we might have, right? Version B, it says, "Please accept this invitation to stand with President Mrs. Bush by becoming a charter member of the George W. Bush Presidential Center." Right? Did you catch it? What conveys a stronger value proposition? Giving a tax-deductible contribution or becoming a prestigious charter member of the George W. Bush Presidential Center, right? It's very clear. So again, that one change resulted in a 139% increase in click-through rate. Because we got so many more people to click through to our landing page, we converted some of the people we never would have converted. Is that awesome? Come on, guys. I need a booyah or something. All right, this one here. In this example, what we focused on, we said, okay, well, again, what's our goal of our email? I don't need to give somebody so much information that they say thanks but no thanks. I want to convey just enough information. Maybe even start with just leading with a story, something that's engaging and inviting, and make it so compelling that they have to click through, right, to get to the rest of the story, as Paul Hartman would say, right? So in this experiment here, we just said, well, let's focus on just conveying enough information that inspires somebody to click through from the email to the landing page where they can get the rest of the story, then we can move them into whatever kind of action we want them to take. And again, that changed 257% increase in click-through rate. Focusing on the click, not the gift. Okay. In this one, so we began to say, well, if people give to people, if people do business with people, what if we made this just like it came from a person instead of some sort of robotic email machine, So version A is the control. It's in the HTML wrapper, and it looks pretty and it's nice. Version B was. Version A is the treatment, which exactly the same content, identical content, but it just looked like it came from an Outlook account. It looked like it came from a person. And so the thought is that we would see a difference in click-through. That one of these would outpull the other in terms of click-through rate. But actually, we saw absolutely zero difference, at least statistically significant difference between version A and version B. However, the people that click through from this email, 118% more likely to give, right? So why is that? Well, I mean, at some level, and again, we're entering into mental conversations. You optimize not the web page, you optimize the mind, the thought sequences, and somewhere, either on a subconscious level or whatever, they were thinking, well, this came from a person. This came from the guy, so I'm actually more motivated to take the action that they've laid before me. This one, as I mentioned, so this was an end of year, the beginning of an end of year email campaign with the Heritage Foundation. And they have, they send a lot of email. So we tested, and this was the first in the series, we said, okay, well, let's just focus on this idea of getting people to click, right? Instead of trying to get them to give a gift. So version A, the control, it just has the typical language like give your gift today, donate today, renew your membership today. It's all about getting that gift instead of trying to sell the gift in the email. Version B, we said, let's just get people to click through to watch the video that's on the landing page. Now, both of these emails went to the exact same landing page. So the video was available regardless of which way they clicked. But by focusing on the video instead of focusing on the gift, we were able to generate a 369% increase in click-through rate, and that translated into a 121% increase in revenue. They were pretty excited. So we rolled that out for the rest of the campaign, and it made a significant difference. We got some people's attention with that. Okay, one more example. So this is an email from the Chuck Colson Center, the late Chuck Colson. Version A was the control, which was the typical long form email, again, came out of the whole direct mail kind of mindset of more is more. Version B is the treatment, where we said, okay, well, we've done these experiments with other organizations. We found that if we can shorten the message in email and inspire the click, get them to the landing page, tell the rest of the story, then transition into an ask, that we can actually, do better. So you guys probably know what happened in this experiment, right? We got a 1,209% increase in click-through rate. And we grew donations by negative 3.57%. Whoops. Well, we have to obviously always statistically validate everything. So do we have a significant difference? Yes, in click-through. But did we meet the required sample size? Well, no. There was not enough difference in the donations, so we needed to keep testing. So, okay, let's do the same experiment next month, right? Next month, long form, control, short form, treatment. Again, we increased click-through rate, 117% this time. But this time, we grew donations by negative 30%. So there's a couple cool things that came out of this experiment. There's the first one is that the learning is more valuable than the lift. The learning is more valuable than the lift. So what did we learn? Well, there's a couple things we learned. Number one, we learned that the messenger sometimes carries with it more weight than the message itself, right? So both of these experiences, and you can't see the landing page, but if you click through from this, you would get basically the same content that you would get in this email. So we're getting more people to it, they're getting the same kind of information, and every other experiment that we've done similar to this, well, we get more people to convert, fall through the bottom of the funnel. But there's something special about Chuck Colson and the relationship that he has with his donors, with his constituents. And so what we discovered is, well, the more that Chuck Colson says, the more people are motivated to take action, right? Because the web page on this example is not signed by anybody, but these emails are signed by Chuck Colson. So the more that Chuck Colson would say, the more people were motivated to actually take that action. Pretty cool, right? And then the last thing we learned is that best practices don't exist, right? Best practices don't exist. You have to test, and you have to test within a rigorous methodology. Because just because something works for one organization, it does not mean that it's going to work for every organization, right? All right, so let's move on to landing pages. So the last part of the sequence, so email capture, open, click-through rate, and then finally we get them to click, we get them to the landing page, and obviously the goal there is conversion. We want them to give. The average for nonprofits, about 2.7% of people that come to the website are actually going to give a gift. And how do we go about the process of actually optimizing? Well, we have to focus on the offer, which is the impact that's promised in exchange for the gift. We have to focus on sometimes introducing incentives to the process. So when somebody's ready to make a decision, is there something we can introduce that will tip the scales and get them to actually want to complete that action? But the biggest thing, and the biggest thing that affects most organizations is friction. And friction is anything that causes psychological resistance to a given element on the web page. Now, what does that mean, right? Well, let me give you an actually living example. I think it'd be helpful. So this is World Vision. This is their 30-hour. I'm really big on World Vision. I'm sorry if there's anybody in here from them, but it's all in love. So, so this is a fundraising campaign for them, 30-hour famine. And if you came to this website, where you guys are going to help me? Where would you go to donate? Top right. Perfect. Boom. Donate button, right? All right, so I click that, and it takes me to this page. Now what do you do? I'll read some of this to you, some of the links. This first link here. Find out more about where donations go. Helpful, but not what I want to do. I've actually clicked the donate button. I want to donate, right? I've conveyed that I want to donate. Search for a student group. What does that mean, right? For participants, to search your page, click here. I have no idea what you're talking about. I want to donate. Create your own fundraising page. Click here. No, I want to donate. So maybe sign up for what, or get, oh, maybe down here. Other ways to give. Discover more ways to help. Maybe that's where I need to go. So that is where I need to go to click through to actually make my donation. So if you made it past this point, which I would say 99.9% of us probably don't have the patience for, you would get to this lovely page, which, again, another kind of piece of friction putting me between giving my donation. And it's at least it's a little more clear now. So there's a donate. I'm getting closer. You know what I mean? Donate now. So I click that. And it takes me to a different website, different experience, user experience, and I have this moment of reorientation. Where am I? What am I trying to do? Why should I do it? And so it's okay. 30-hour famine. I want to give a donation. Donate now. And then it puts it in a shopping cart, which I think is strange because I'm not trying to order a child. I just want to sponsor them, right? But I say, okay, I'll play along. I guess I'll check out, see what happens. And they're like, boom! They smack me in the face and they say, now you got to create an account. So I fill out my name. I hit sign in. I fill out more stuff. I hit continue. And I fill out more stuff. I hit continue. And then I put in my payment information. I hit continue. Get away. Sorry, guys. And then, what's my click counter up to 10? Okay. So are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? So after clicking through 10 different screens, this is pretty much how I feel. And that's the point. We beat the ever-living snot out of our donors every single day to get that donation, right? What's one of the best things we can do? If we really love these folks that love us and provide, opportunities for us to have greater impact in the world, we can just make it easy for them to donate. Because if you think about it, the psychology of giving a gift online is the exact opposite of the psychology of ordering a product online, right? You order a product, you're willing to jump through a series of hoops, maybe, because at the end of the day, you're going to get your book from Amazon, right? But when you give a gift online, the benefit comes first, right? You've been blessed, you've been compelled, you've been inspired with a vision of how I can have impact and I can actually, make a difference in this world. So the act of collecting the gift is a formality. I want it to be as simple and as pain-free and as frictionless as possible. So compare that user experience with something like this. On the same page that conveys the value proposition, boom, I can give a gift, a contextualized giving opportunity. Or this, you'll notice a pattern here. These things take, you find something that works and it's hard to beat the control, right? Or this, yes, I will stand and help hurting families. And boom, on the same page where I make the ask, I'm able to collect the gift. Or this, I can join Chuck Colson. Or this, the Heritage Foundation, I can make my contribution today. So the idea is, how can we remove some of the friction associated with giving? Well, we can create contextualized giving opportunities. On the same page that inspires the gift, we can collect the gift. But adequacy is the enemy of excellence, right? So no matter how successful we are, no matter how many X's we're able to increase conversion rate, we have to continue to push it, right? We have to continue to push. So in this example, we had a very successful campaign with the Heritage Foundation. And they said, we don't care, do better next year, right? So we did a series of experiments, like little multivariate experiments where we put different content elements, different button colors, different incentives, very small little nuanced changes. And year over year, we were able to increase the donor conversion rate 26% just by making all these small little changes and finding the new recipe that actually worked best. But again, that's not good enough. We have to continue to push it, right? And actually, before I show you this next experiment, I must introduce the flux capacitor of revenue maximization. So this is great. You're gonna love this. So I have to take you on a journey through time. As the story goes, the year was 1985. The man was Dr. Emmett Brown, and he was, as the story goes, he was standing on his toilet. He was hanging a clock in his bathroom. He slipped. He hit his head. And he had a vision, and this was his vision: the flux capacitor. The device that enables time to travel. Some of you look at me like, where is he going? Well, come back to the future with me. The year is 2010. Fundraiser by the name of me. I also had a vision, and my vision was this: the flux capacitor of revenue maximization. This is really cool. So one of the things I discovered is there's only three things that affect online revenue. It's traffic, it's conversion rate, and it's average gift. Now, the amazing thing about that is those three factors have the exact same impact on revenue when the other factors remain unchanged, right? So that makes this number extremely relevant, and it's not just for marathon runners anymore. 26.2, no, not 1.21 gigawatts, 26.2 is the magic number, because if we can increase each of these factors by 26.2% at the same time, we double our revenue. So what does that mean? So we start with a baseline of 100,000 visitors to our website. We have a 2% conversion rate, $70 average gift. It's $140,000 in revenue. Okay. So if we pick one of these factors, it doesn't matter which one, traffic, conversion rate, or average gift, and we increase it by 26.2%, and the other two remain unchanged, it's a direct 26.2% increase in revenue. If we increase two of those factors by 26.2%, 59% increase in revenue. If we can move each of these, traffic, conversion rate, average gift, by 26.2%, we double our revenue. So if somebody asks you, well, how can we improve our revenue online? It's like it's focusing on each of these different things here. So there's another heuristic I'm going to introduce real quickly. This is another Mech Labs. They say conversion is a factor of all these different variables. It's the same things. It's just basically reoriented. But it introduces this new one, and each of the coefficients suggests what actually carries the most weight. So visitor motivation, why somebody is coming to your website in the first place, is the number one factor that's going to determine whether or not you have somebody convert or not, right? And that's usually the thing that we have the least amount of control over. So what do we have control over? Well, we have perceived value. How can we communicate? This is huge. How can we communicate our unique value proposition in such a way, right, that it compels people to actually want to sign up, want to donate, want to join? Well, let me give you an example here. So go to Heritage Foundation again. They've been like a guinea pig. It's been wonderful, just like working with them, just to be able to test all these things. So version A is the control. This is that landing page I showed you that was the optimized, contextualized giving experience. Version B is the treatment. So radical redesign. We basically, I mean, you can barely even see it here. It's hard to read because it's so long. It scrolls literally 4 pulls on the mouse will get you to the donation form. So we tested these A/B split tests, and version A, version B. So the treatment increased donor conversion rate by 74%. By breaking every single best practice rule, by burying the call to action at the very, very bottom of the page, right? Putting the donation form at the very bottom. But not only did we get more people to convert, they gave that at a much, much higher rate. So we had a 189% increase in average gifts. So those two factors combined for 274% increase in revenue. Those two factors. So you're like, well, how? I don't get it. So this is a little bit easier to see maybe. What we focused on is communicating a much stronger value proposition, right? We said, if we can just increase people's understanding of what the Heritage Foundation is, what they do, why it's important, then we'll get more people that actually say they want to join and take part in that. All right, so precept number 3, testing trumps marketing intuition. I'm going to go through this pretty quick because I think we're running out of time. So here's one of the best practices that I've learned is that if you have multiple calls to action on the same landing page, conflicting calls to action, you hurt your response rate, right? Well, that makes sense. I said, well, let's test it. So version A is the control. It's donation form, copy. Version B is exactly the same, except we added a secondary call to action, a name acquisition capture form. And so the test was designed to say, okay, well, having multiple calls to action, does that hurt my conversion rate or not? And then the second thing we said is, okay, well, if somebody goes for this PDF thing, let's give them another opportunity to give. So if they sign up for the PDF, they get a confirmation page with another opportunity to give. So then the other thing is like, well, if I give somebody a gift, how does that affect my conversion rate? All right, so version A, 2.52% donation conversion rate. Version B, 2.51%. So almost exactly the same. It's statistically, there's no difference between those two. However, we also had 4.98% of the people that went for that secondary offer. And when passed through another opportunity to give, they gave it a much higher rate, 14.16. So those two factors combined for a 25% increase in revenue. Having multiple calls to action does not hurt response, it can actually help. Pretty exciting. So very quickly here, my innovation to this little formula here is just drop the E, right? It's not just email marketing effectiveness, it's marketing effectiveness. This formula can apply across channels and across different opportunities. So in an experiment that we tested, we were able to generate an effective 213% response rate for a direct mail campaign. Well, you're like, okay, come on, you can't get better than 100%. Let me explain. So this is the idea. The campaign was targeting, it was using external relevance. So the Super Bowl was in town. And we said, well, let's send out this postcard to all of our customers. And it's got my name, Tim, you've been drafted. It's got my name on the back of the jersey. And because these are people we knew and had a relationship with, we were able to customize the color of the jersey to match their favorite team, right? So we got some little bit of relevance going on there. They flip over the card, it says, go to your locker room at the pearl below and start scoring points for your organization. So they go to their locker room and it says call plays, gain yards, and we'll give you a $5,000 donation for the organization that wins, our little KMA Bowl, okay? So it's got this little ticker at the bottom. The way the game works is you open up your playbook, you select a play, you click on it, you gain 9 yards, but you need 71 more to score a touchdown. But here's the thing, you can only call 1 play per day. So they have to come back to the website every single day. But we said, we'll let you draft some players. We'll let you draft more people on your team. You can score points faster and hopefully capture that $5,000 donation, okay? So they put in the first name, last name, email address of the person they want to send to, or they can sign free agents by posting to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. When people register or sign up, they get this personalized email. You've been drafted. Congratulations, join the team. There's a cool little scoreboard, so there's the whole competition element. So that was the campaign. Here's the thing I wanted to get to, the results. So we sent out 488 postcards, very small sample. We had 87 people that got that postcard, jumped channels, went online, signed up, and called to play. That was our conversion metric. But here's the cool thing. So 18% response rate on the postcard is not bad. You know what I mean, right? So 87 people then recruited 972 people. Those 972 people recruited 508. Those 508, 250. Those 250, 97. All the way down 12 levels deep of sharing, right? So integrating, offline, mail, jump channel, go online, and participate in this social game, right? We're able to increase our response. So we sent out 488 postcards. We had 1,903 people playing the game. So that's where that whole 213 effective response rate. So the cool thing is we got all this neat data, and we're able to look at these trees and see how these people share. And one of the things we discovered is that there's one person in almost every organization that's like the linchpin, right? The person that can really do some damage, the connected authority or the maven or the sneezer or whatever you want to call them. And they recruit like crazy. And the winning organization, this is what their tree looked like. So we sent a postcard to 4 people. All 4 of them participated in the game. But this guy here was friends with this guy here, who we nicknamed Ferris Wheeler, because he burnt this Ferris wheel and all these little mini Ferris wheels coming off there. So it's kind of cool. Couple quick just highlights. I'm not going to go through all that stuff. All right, here's what I'm going to show. So internal relevance. So remember I said relevance is the multiplier in that equation. So relevance times offer. So using internal relevance, so the personalization, name, email, name, organization, favorite team, and then external relevance. What does the Super Bowl have to do with fundraising? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But it's something that everybody gets, right? It's the most popular thing on TV. It's the most watched thing on television. So instead of coming up with an idea that's very organization-centric, we got to come up with ideas that are very user-centric, right? Something that our audience would want to participate in. Even if, initially, there's not really a connection that can be made there, but if we can engage them in an experience, a fun experience, that they can have in the presence of our brand, and then, along the way, we can introduce some of the points that we want to do in terms of educating folks. Incentive, remember? Email marketing effectiveness equals relevance times offer plus incentive. So there was 2 different incentives, and what are those incentives designed to do? To drive the behaviors that we wanted to drive. The first one we wanted to do is we wanted to get people to recruit as many people as they could. So we said we're going to give a $5,000 donation to the organization that scores the most points. Well, you can only call 1 play per day. So in order to rack up more points faster, you're incentivized to go and share this with other people. We said, okay, also, we want people to come back every day and participate. So we said, okay, whoever gets the most individual points is going to be the league MVP, and we'll send them an iPad, right? So there's 2 different incentives going on there. So again, just starting to looking at this, the keys to success is starting by defining the ultimate goal. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Come up with an idea that is focused on something that your audience would be interested in. Lead with an idea that's not about you. Develop incentives that will drive the right behaviors. What are the actions you want people to take? Incentivize those different behaviors. And consider using social to kind of become that multiplier, become that mouthpiece. I have this idea of what if social media can become this human antenna, right? You don't even think about it. We try and broadcast, but social media can really be a human antenna. If I can give you if I can come up with a compelling idea, people are going to share it, and I can inspire them to do so. So speaking of inspiring, anybody classical music fans? I'm going to close here. Anybody recognize this guy? Benjamin Zander. So anyway, he's Benjamin Zander. He's got a great TED Talk. If you want to look him up, Benjamin Zander. He said, and his talk is known for his after conference speeches. He's really cool guy. And he said, I was 45 years old. I had been conducting orchestras for 20 years, and all of a sudden it occurred to me, I don't make a sound. He says, I get my cover on the picture of the CD during my post. He says, but my ability to be powerful is completely dependent on my ability to empower others. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then he concludes his little speech. So his whole idea is what if everybody loves classical music and they just don't know about it yet? Because somebody hasn't shared it with them. They haven't conveyed the unique value proposition of being able to appreciate something as wonderful as that. And I think that's the same for all of our organizations here, right, that are represented here. What if we can, if we walk around and just kind of are satisfied with making incremental improvements, we're never going to get there. You know what I mean? We have to believe that everybody wants to do this. Everybody should be involved in our cause. Everybody should donate to our organization. The problem is we just can't communicate as effectively enough. So we have to continue to test. Anyway, he closes his speech and he says, I no longer measure my success by the number of awards I've received or the accolades or the sound of the applause. It says, I measure my success by the number of shining eyes I see staring back at me. So looking around the room, there's some shining eyes. So I appreciate you guys' attention, and thank you. That's it. Any questions, or I don't know, do we have? Okay. Any quick questions? Yes.
Do you have any, we all know it's true, the transition from, let's say, your donation page to an external processing page is not good.
Right.
But is there anything that, some data that I can use or somewhere that I can go to essentially say, you know, it's not just me talking about it, it's not just our donors saying, it looks like a basket, you know, it looks like a shopping cart,
Yes.
to help folks overcome that hurdle, because it's hard work to make it look the same and to go through those processes, and they just don't want it.
The best data that I could provide to you would be just to encourage you to do an A/B split test. So create something that has that kind of antiquated user experience, and then match it up against something that has that contextualized giving experience. And I mean, it's really easy to tame the hippo when you have like the A/B split test data in room. So good question. Very good. Any other questions?
Are you saying that maybe I heard you correctly, but the average open rate for email is 1.76?
No, open rate is 18%.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
that's okay.
1.76 is the Convio benchmark click-through rate.
Oh, so after they look at clicking through to external links.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Sure.
More kind of bizarre thing.
Yeah.
But, we are a large public school
Okay.
with a huge focus on football and athletic
Mm.
literacy. Very popular in the community. They don't raise as much money as we do academic-wise, but they have a stronger go in the pool, more history. I try to stay away from talking about football,
Mm.
just because I can't give them tickets, I can't give them points, I can give them better tailgating spots.
Wow.
Should I not be doing that? Should I buy some tickets and have sort of like a contest?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's what is most relevant to the constituent. I mean, if that's the thing that they're interested in. I mean, how can we then maybe move people on the pathway? So if their initial interest is football, can we satisfy that? And then open their mind up to like a bigger, broader perspective. So football is great, but it's part of this bigger spectrum, which is our educational institution. And without people that are able to stand with us financially, it all goes away.
I sort of feel like I'm giving up shit by using football as a connector. Because I get it.
Yeah.
If it had some question to do with football, or are we going to a bowl game, or switching conferences, but that would get, our people aren't motivated online, but for athletics, they are. They buy their tickets online, they want to see what's going on online, but for academic giving, we haven't been able to convert that.
Right.
So,
Incentives is a tough deal, because once you give the incentive, you can expect that they'll expect the incentive every single time. But there are ways to message football without giving the incentive per se. And especially speaking about the competition around football, and even pitting, one team against the other, varsity versus junior varsity, in terms of fundraising, they drive that interest without actually giving the incentive. Keep that incentive in your pocket until you really need it.
That's a good point. I would agree.
I would even consider too, the dangling carrot, maybe football tickets or whatever that may be, but the incentive or the levels that they have to go through might require some academic challenges. You want to promote education, make it almost sort of an academic trivia to get to that level. And that might inspire the education piece, sort of like the citizenship exams. You actually know the answers to this.
Yeah,
It's just an idea to sort of keep the educational messages in the mix.
that's a great point. So, like, if football is kind of like the tip of the spear, that's the entry point. How do you then move people along the way and what's some sort of experience they can have in the presence of your brand, where they understand, they're actually able to understand. I have a guy in our office, really, smart, pearls of wisdom drip from his tongue, right? And he says, tell me, and I'll forget. Show me, and I may remember. Allow me to experience, and I'll truly understand. Can you create an experience where people can understand the unique value proposition of your organization? Even if it has to lead with something else, by the time they come out the other side, it's a completely different experience.
Get out.